Basically, as part of the survey, we were able to research about 15 countries in Asia, from Japan, as you can see all the way on the left-hand side, to Vietnam, as you'll see on the right-hand side. And what we have here is the net salary. So when we mean net, we mean salary after tax and after things such as Social Security or MPF. It's the net salary that somebody who's of a middle managerial position would receive. So as you can see from this, in Japan the net salary is highest. It's almost 100,000 US dollars per annum. Whereas at the other end of the scale, you've got Vietnam, which is obviously the lowest in the region. What you can see from this is obviously Hong Kong ranks down in 10th. So an expatriate would receive a higher net salary in places like Singapore, obviously, in Japan, but also they would receive a higher net salary even in developing locations, places like Sri Lanka, places like Laos, and places such as Cambodia and Bangladesh. So why is this? Well, basically there are several reasons why the net salary packages. What we do see throughout the region is there's actually variation of salary. So if you look between Japan, which is the highest salary in the region, and Vietnam, which has the lowest salary in the region, the difference is around 30%, which actually, from a salary point of view, that's actually not too drastic. And one of the reasons why Japan has the highest salaries is partly due to the type of staff who are being moved there. Japan, obviously, the types of companies who are there: banking and finance, technology, engineering, basically high tech, high skilled, high salary types of careers. And so because of this, obviously base pay is therefore relatively high, and so that accounts in part for the reason why salaries in Japan are high. Is when we look at the total costs, the value of both the compensation package and the benefits package, is actually the total cost of employing expatriates in Hong Kong becomes relatively high. It moves from being 10th all the way up to having the third highest costs in the region, just below Japan and India. And as you can see from that as well, you'll see that once we add those total costs in, the total cost of the company is actually quite considerable, whereas in Japan the salary was just under 100,000 US dollars. Once you add in the value of the benefits and tax, it's about 3.5 times as much. So the actual cost to the company is quite considerable. And we see that again in Hong Kong as well, where it's almost twice as much, twice as much on top once we add in the value of benefits and once we add in tax in Hong Kong, even though tax in Hong Kong is relatively low. Number one, in many of the developing locations which are ranked above it, places such as mentioned, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Pakistan, in these cases, expatriate salaries are always calculated by making reference to the home-based approach. Okay? And as part of that, the company has to provide incentives to attract the employee to take an assignment to move to these developing locations. So if you're being sent to somewhere like Laos, Cambodia, the company has to give you a certain premium to attract you, because these are perceived to be hardship locations. So in order to basically encourage you to uproot, to move your family, to go to these locations, the company has to provide a certain premium. That's missing in Hong Kong. Companies don't need to provide that premium because Hong Kong in itself is attractive for many people. Many people consider it to be a good career move to come and work here. So fewer incentives are required. The other issue is, as mentioned, when companies are providing, when companies are using this home-based approach, they normally have to provide something which is known as a cost of living allowance in order to ensure that the employee's purchasing power is protected. Now, as you can see, Singapore and Japan, the net salaries are higher than in Hong Kong. And this is because the cost of living in these locations, particularly in Japan, is higher than Hong Kong. So therefore, companies who are using the home-based approach have to provide higher cost of living allowances in order to protect the purchasing power of these assignees. Then the next issue, which is what we referred to earlier, is the importance of currency. Obviously, when salaries are delivered to the employee, they're normally delivered in the currency of the host location. So obviously in Japan, an expatriate is paid in yen. Singapore, they're paid in Singapore dollars. Hong Kong, they're paid in Hong Kong dollars. Now, obviously, what we've seen is, with the Hong Kong dollar being pegged to a relatively weak US dollar, which is weakened in comparison to several Asian countries in recent years, that's had an impact again, which means that the net salary that I as an expatriate earn in Hong Kong dollar terms, even if that hasn't changed that much, because that Singapore dollar salary that my Singapore counterpart may earn, that's become stronger. So therefore, that inflates that person's relative salary. And that's what we've also seen in Japan, where even if salaries haven't changed in Japan, expatriate salaries may not have changed year on year in Japan, but because the yen has become stronger, when we then convert those salaries into US dollars, that obviously puts it much higher than Hong Kong in terms of the comparative salary. The other reason why Hong Kong is in 10th place is, like Singapore, there's a greater there's a greater uptake of paying staff, expatriate staff, in line with the local market. Now, in most other locations, particularly in developing locations, there's a big difference in the salary that an expatriate earns and the local national, because again, they have to be encouraged, incentivized to go to the location, like these developing locations which I mentioned. But in the case of Hong Kong, because there's this greater use of paying staff the same salary that a local national would earn, then that's actually reducing, or that's deflating expatriate salaries, because more and more of them are being paid along the same lines as a local national. So that's why we see the net salaries, the take-home salaries of expatriates in Hong Kong in 10th place in the region.